Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Lair. I'm your Loremaster, and after several side trips, we return to our exploration of the elemental planes. This week, despite me being home where it feels like we're in the plane of fire, we'll be doing a deep dive into... I did not even plan that one, but into the plane of water. So, let's get started. The plane of water sits between the plane of air and earth. Also known as the boundless sea, the plane is a mix of both fresh water and salt water, with the plane of air hanging above and the plane of earth forming the seabed. Of course, the water is just the most common areas. Places of enchanted waters which warp those who live there. Places of poisons and acid which kill all except the most resilient of life forms. Areas where blood and chum swirl around, having come from nothing. And that does not even touch on the creatures who live there. There are portals to the plane of water across every major body of water. So let's use that as an excuse for today's first side tangent. The portals show where there is water everywhere. Today's first, as promised a few weeks ago, is the Ibari Ocean, one of the 5 main oceans of Galorian. I personally would have liked to look at the Antarctic Ocean, but the Laughing Salesman promised Ibari, so it's here. And I need to find another reason to fit the one ocean not touching any land into a video. Anyway, the Ibari Ocean is one of the smaller oceans, touching the Impossible Lands and all of the eastern Gurund, the south of Casmaroon, the east coast of Vudra, and completely surrounding Iblidos. But the area is recently discussed in the context of trade. Ibari is one of the hottest oceans for traders, it both having massive storms and hurricanes, as well as doldrums which can trap ships for days. And by storms, I do not just mean thunderstorms, but great columns of fire connected to Sandray. And then there is the Ibari Ice Forest, miles of clumps of frozen gases which cause major damage if broken open. Most wise sailors stick to the shoreline, though traders always take risks. The plane of water functions a little differently from the other ones. We do not have extensive talk on the water elementals or mesprits. What we do have is several aquatic ancestries. Merfolks are one of the premier examples coming from the material plane, but creating their own minor presence, and prefer to keep their minor presence hidden. Then there are Saugans, who work to invade the many kingdoms of the plane and gain them for themselves. Lesser representatives include Locanthas, ocean giants, Meros, and even some Suli. Krakens also have power, but their inability to work nicely together has limited their ability against other heavy hitters. And surprisingly, Merids are the only genie who do not have control of their plane, allowing them to be one of the most genial leaders to guests of their few cities. Instead, it is brine dragons who have conquered the depths, in the name of their deity, the brackish emperor. But with actual mention of the Sulis, this is probably the best place I will have to put in a mention of Suli, as side heading 2. Suli are the children of John, the genies without a home plane and control over all 4 elements. Not sure how this might be effective in Rage. Who knows, might have an Eastern equivalent. Suli, like John, look mostly like the mortal halves, but with the mystic eyes and the aura of power. Suli also tend to have asymmetrical features and, in some places, metallic skin. They tend to fit in well and excel at jobs which require speech and people skills. They are most often found in Casmaroon, Kalish, or Kadira, but can be found in Tuvia, where the four elements are most worshipped, and in Vasaria among the Shouti. There are two types of Suli. Suli Jean, which are children of Jean, and who have control over all four elements, and Dualborn, who are affected by two different elemental planes and only have control over those two. Suli dwarfs collect gemstones to represent the different elements they control. Dualborn elves appear among the Voronoi elves, usually fire, and either wind or water as their powers. Suli gnomes, as opposed to matching colors, are a rainbow of different vibrant shades and appear in natural tones. Autobahn halflings have many dualborns in their ranks and are usually connected to the focus of a single rune lord. Goblins who are Suli prefer to live varied lifestyles, emphasizing one element each day. But Sulis are not the geniekin of water. That would be the Undine. Undines usually have the appearance of the mortal halves, with features or colorations reminding one of ocean life. The thing Undine are most well known for is community. While other geniekin prefer solitude, Undines are almost never seen alone, to the point where there are just as many Undines born from two Undine parents than are all born from traditional geniekin ways from the Jinn or the influence of planes. Many Undine build themselves up in places closely associated with water, from Outsea to Tian Sha to specifically the nation of Wanshu, just living their entire lives on the open sea. And they can also be found from south in the Eye of Armadillo to north in the Crown of Worlds. Tawalu dwarfs live deep in mist, while the Vajra of Rahadam live in marshlands, giving them both higher than usual amounts of Undine children. Likewise, the Ilvani elves of the Crown of the World are Frostwhite. Well, even more Frostwhite than the normal Ilvani. Well, or the exact same shade of white. How do people actually tell them apart? Anyway, Undine gnomes love moving between both the surface and the depths, exploring them both for twice the fun. Undine halflings tend to have fish scales and live next to rivers. Why halflings keep getting physical mutations, the world may never know. Undines also appear pretty consistently among frost goblins, though instead of fur they grow icicles across their body. And for the different lineages, as one guessed, frosty rhyme souls tend to be born around the Crown of the World, and where most of the above examples come from. On the other hand, those Undines born from brine dragons instead of myriads tend to be brine souls instead. Finally, ones with only the faintest trace of water lineage or with some air mixed in their bloodline, they usually result in mist souls. On to deities, we have Calizandria, the brackish emperor, elemental lord of drowning, water, and waves. Taking the form of a giant dragonoid, he is known to fluctuate between sleep, where he stands unmoving in the ocean depths, and activity, where he actively destroys the other kingdoms in his realm. His opposite is Lysianassa, Empress of the Torrent, elemental lord of currents, tides, and waves. Appearing as a sailfish made of coral, she once patrolled the oceans to keep away threats to the depths. Her tail, unfortunately, is the same as the rest. When it comes to traveling across the plane, there are highways of currents which can take you where you need to go. However, just because we did not discuss water elementals does not mean that they do not stand guard across certain paths, ready to protect their domains. And guides to keep you away from these danger zones can be expensive. There are ferries which can be used to sail the seas, complete with air to breathe, though again this requires you to put your trust in a third party. Finally, there are various magic spells which allow you to explore with your own 2 empty feet, but again these can use high level spell slots, so always swim with care. Now going through the plane, there are 3 spheres of flames which provide light to the depths. Named Axstar, Pharos, and Pilanaxia, they are hot enough to resist being put out by the water, and serve as sources of energy and light for many ancestries. However, one place the light does not reach is the Phantom's Ebb. Not because the light literally cannot reach there, but because the area is mostly made up of shadows. There are also areas with other liquids which gather in the plane of water, the largest being the Forest of Oils, and many groups of alchemists live just outside so they can travel within the maze to find whatever they need. There are also areas where pressure varies, the strongest being the Savage Tide. A crevice alongside the barrier to the plane of water, anything which comes too close will be instantly crushed. Finally, we have Salvisora, a temple made of ice, which is the only temple of the good elemental lords which still remains. However, Water Naga have been moving in recently, seeming to try to revive the faith. Or the cult. It's hard to tell at this point. Speaking of Naga, let's examine them for today's 3rd side tangent. Nagas, originating in Hindu mythology, are half human and half serpent. There, in the original mythology, they lived in deep caverns full of gems and acted as guardians. Their traditions would have them also act as guardians of Buddhas, as well as their own people, who originally lived on an island of Sri Lanka. Either way, they were almost always seen as a good people, and are always portrayed with an odd number of heads. Nagas and Pathfinder are creatures with a humanoid head, or heads, and a serpentine body. They are intelligent creatures driven to pursue various goals, whether it be art, knowledge, or conquest. They are known for guarding far locations and dungeons, which is where adventurers will most likely find them. But, in contrast with Salvisora, Kelizandrika, the Brackish Empire is definitely populated. This is the holdings of Calixandri and his Brine Dragon minions. Built in the saltiest part of the ocean, on the edge of the plane of Earth, here the Elemental Lord sleeps within his famed Palace of Salt and Bone until he goes on his next rampage. On the other hand, Evershale, the largest territory of the Marids, is less strong, but it has found its niche as a refuge to those across the plains without homes, which is how the Marids currently feel. Mempelek, on the border between the plane of water and air, a hollowed area of ice, which humans and Selkie live together. That said, the 2 most interesting locations are Lion's Mouth Hold, home of a giant sentient jellyfish many try to sway to the side because its powers predict the future, and Lair, a city built on the back of a giant anglerfish. And the main trade hub of the city is Vilesk, a city not run by Marids or Brine Dragons, but instead Undines, though they further call themselves Miradals. The city is built on a tower unconnected from the ocean floor to close to the surface. The city acts as an intermediary trader, moving goods between civilizations which cannot stand each other. For infrastructure, we have Algiki's Bazaar, which is the city's lifeblood, the Azor Armory, where the city's army keeps birth, the Guildmaster's Hall to organize the traders, and the Splendor's Dock, where ships for both the surface and below dock. For entertainment, we have the Chamber Sphere, which can entertain a crowd of both surface dwellers and sea folk, as well as the Swaying Garden, a floating garden of coral. In between the two extremes, we have a source of fire known as a glass pit, and an emergency signal known as a sonophore. And now, side tangent 4, where on Golarion is the forces of water the strongest. Well, first all the oceans. That's probably not a surprise, but it is the basic place to start. Then we have the Solid Lands, home of the powers of both wind and water. Outsea is a community of aquatic creatures in a controlled aquatic environment, so there is much water magic going through around the area. And finally, we have the Shackles, one nation which accompanies various islands. And that brings us to the end of today's video. 3 elemental planes down, 1 to go. And the actual range of elements books should be coming out for pre-order to people starting around now, but not touching anything information-wise until I put out my Planes of Fire video. So join me next time where we actually finish a series, until I have to wait a few months to talk about the 2 new planes. Either way, take care.